Good evening. It is October 2nd, and it is 6:30 p.m., and we have a quorum present. We will call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. The first item on the agenda is approving the minutes from the September 18th meeting. Commissioners, do we have any comments or motion for approval?
Motion to approve as presented.
Okay, motion by Jim.
Second.
Second by Mary Ellen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Third item on the agenda is that for consent agenda plats, we have one plat on the agenda tonight, and it is for the final plat of Creekview 121 South Edition, Lot 1, Block A, on a 17.327 acre tract of land out of the Amos Singleton Survey, abstract number 1138, Zone Light Industrial, located on the north side of State Highway 121 between Leora Lane and Marina Vista Drive.
Good evening, Commissioners. There is one plat on the consent agenda to be considered for approval, and there are no variances requested. Staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the plat as presented.
Okay. Commissioners, do we have any questions or motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Motion by William.
Second.
Second by John. All those in favor signify aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Oh. Michelle, were you going to say something? Are we waiting for, okay.
Sorry. That plat does not require any council action and is approved. No further action is needed.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 4, we have a public hearing for zoning and special use permits. We have one item on the agenda tonight. It's consideration of a special use permit for an auto repair shop on approximately 9.632 acres, legally described as Lot 2R3, Block A, Waters Ridge Edition, Phase 2, and located at 1900 Lakeway Drive, Zone Light Industrial District, as requested by Brett Flory, Cross Architects, P. LLC, on behalf of Columbia, Texas Lakeway Industrial, LLC, the property owner.
Good evening, Commissioners. This request is by Protec Automotive Solutions. They want to occupy approximately 25,000 square feet in a 130,000 square foot building at 1900 Lakeway Drive in Waters Ridge. This location would serve as their corporate headquarters and training offices, as well as for some repair. So over 8,000 square feet would be allocated for offices, and just over 14,000 square feet would be allocated for the shop area. The way that they do business is through partnerships with other repair services, such as Caliber Collision. So after cars have had body work done at other sites, they are brought here to have repairs done to their electronic systems. So all the repairs are actually done in the interior of the building, and it's not individual customers bringing their cars here. It's all done through other corporate partners. So all the repaired cars or cars awaiting repair would be outside. They are striping additional parking at the back of the building. That is for their employees, but it's not anticipated that cars needing repair would be out there. Also, cars brought to this location have already had the body and physical repairs done to them. So the existing building is concrete tilt wall. It does meet current codes, and it was recently built in 2017. Currently, other tenants are working at occupying other lease spaces within the building and have various tenant finish permits going, so there is some construction on the site currently. So the applicant is requesting to move into the space. The one changes they will be making to the exterior of the building are to the rear. They will be enlarging one of the bay doors and adding a ramp so that they can bring the cars in and out through the back side of the building. In order to offset that, staff has requested and the applicant has provided a screening row of Nellie R. Stevens shrubs to screen view from Lake Point Drive, which is where you would mostly be able to see that due to the configuration of the lot. So Nellie R. Stevens can get quite large and would provide adequate screening from the street to offset those improvements at the rear of the building. Staff is recommending approval of this request and is available if you have any questions. The applicant is here as well.
Michelle, just to clarify, the reason that this is a SUP is just because there will be repairs made on site.
Correct. It falls under the category of automotive repair, and that does require a special use permit.
Okay, Commissioners, does anyone else have any questions about this before we move forward? Okay, thank you. And if the applicant wishes to speak before we open the public hearing?
My name is Brett Flory. I'm with Cross Architects, 1255 West 15th Street, Plano, Texas, Suite 125. And I'm here representing ProTech. They are been bought by Caliber Collision. Caliber Collision owns them. So they're going to be providing services to Caliber Collision around the country. And this will be their new corporate headquarters and training facility. All the repair work will be done inside the building. No cars and any kind of disrepair will be parked outside. All the work is typically what they do is, the main thing they do is they repair there's like an advanced kind of notification system most cars have now that like tells you like if you're getting too close to another car or if you're getting too close to the lane or that system. That's what they do is they recalibrate that system. So they do this after all the work's been done. So basically it's like a new car showing up to be recalibrated. So I just wanted to say that there will be no cars parked outside, no work done outside. And it's mostly just for their corporate offices and training facility. But I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
I had a quick question. So I understand that these are vehicles that have been in an accident. They've had the body work done, and they're just getting the electrical. So whenever they show up to get repaired, how long are they going to be there getting repaired, and where are they going to be stored on site while they're there?
This facility is not really set up for volume. Actually, the way their business model is they go out and do most of the repair work at the body shop. But here they're creating this space for training. It'll come in and the cars may be in there for, I think honestly it probably takes about a day to recalibrate the car. And then it'll be put back on a flatbed and driven back to the body shop so the customer can pick it up at the body shop. So there'll be no customer interaction at this facility. Only people here will be ProTech employees.
Okay, and so you don't anticipate there being parked vehicles overnight?
Inside the shop, there probably will be some vehicles, but not outside.
Commissioners, any other questions for applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so with that, we will open the public hearing for agenda item 4A. If there's anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Virginia Larson, and I live at 260 West Bethel Road in Coppell, but my husband and I own the building directly adjacent to it on Lakeway, 1830 Lakeway. And what you can't tell from looking at the exhibits, I think page 8 may be the best example, but this building, all the buildings on Lakeway with the exception of this building are flex space buildings. They're all single story, they're well landscaped, they're mostly call centers. Our tenant is a healthcare software developer out of Oregon, and this is their Dallas headquarters. What my concern is this is almost a 3-story building. I know it's office and warehouse, but from our building, and I think I've sent some pictures that you might be able to tell, you can see that rear parking lot because it is at an angle to our back. And the only opposition I have to this, and really it's probably about the building itself, not as much about the auto repair, although I am a little concerned about, as you are, cars being parked overnight or ultimately having some sort of fencing back there, warehousing on outdoors. But I would like to see some more screening between our building and the warehouse just in that back parking lot area. Because our building has windows on all sides. We actually utilize the front and the back as entrances. And we have a picnic area set up back there. It's been landscaped, and, I mean, it's a place where the tenants and employees go and take their breaks, have their lunch. And now what they're going to see, you can't really tell right now because the area behind it is full of leaves, green leaves. But once winter hits, or fall comes along, you're going to see that parking lot. And all I would ask is that we get some sort of green screening between us and them. We already have some Nellie R. Stevens, but they're not compact together. They're spaced more for a design effect than to do any form of formal screening. So much like they're doing around the semi-parking, we'd like to see at least a section that cuts off our building visibility from that back parking area and the semis that will be there potentially. And that's kind of our really maybe only concern. I would wonder about our recourse if they do continue or they do plan to or ultimately do have cars left in the parking lot overnight or for days at a time. I don't know how we would deal with that down the road.
Can you clarify again, I'm sorry, where your property is?
So if
It's
you,
on Lake Way?
we are 1830 Lakeway. I believe if you look at picture,
North of this building?
we are north of the building and we are directly adjacent. We're their only neighbor
Okay.
on Lakeway. And if you look at page, I believe it's page 8, they don't give you, you can see a little corner of a building to the right on the one that shows where they're going to designate parking, enough parking for the tenants of that space.
I'm having a hard time.
This building right here.
Okay, so this building.
So the view is there, so the screening would be there.
Okay.
So if the building's here, the view is to the back here, and so the screening would be there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I followed exactly where you were.
Do you have any questions?
Can you sign, is there a sign-in sheet up there? Can we get you to sign in?
We've owned the building since 2009, prior to the building of that facility, so I don't know if I made that clear, or if it's even relevant. Do you want the property address or where I live?
Property address is separate.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Hi, I'm Ray Larson, and Susie and I are married, so we own the building that we're talking about. So from here, what happens in terms of the request that Susie just made about putting some green screening there? How do you guys decide? How does the process work?
Staff can correct me, but I would assume that we could put a condition on it.
Correct. If the commissioners wanted to make that a condition of the SUP, they would need to make it a part of their motion. What the commission will be making tonight is a recommendation to the city council. So it will still go to the city council. That's scheduled for November the 5th. And city council will ultimately make the final decision and then approve any additional conditions if they're requested.
And if I could just add one thing to what my wife suggested, we don't think it's a huge ask for this reason. So that building that we're talking about, the 130,000 square foot building, is a very large warehouse relative to, or very similar to phase one of that whole complex. They're all 100, 200, 300,000 square foot buildings. Our phase is a phase where they built multiple 30,000 square foot buildings. 15,000, some 12,000 square foot buildings. And these flex buildings have different kinds of tenants relative to the large industrial buildings. And while it's certainly within their right to build that 130,000 square foot building in that complex, in one of the last parcels of the area, directly adjacent to something that was more beautified, we think it's not a super unreasonable ask to put some green screening to separate something that has a little bit more comfortable feel, office feel, tech feel to it, that's in juxtaposition to something that's more industrial. And I just wanted to share that with you, and hopefully you'll consider that, or whoever ultimately makes the decision would consider that. Okay? You bet.
So was any of that discussed with staff?
We discussed it briefly.
We received the request this afternoon.
Okay. So, like, what kind of green screening did you have in mind? Of what, I'm sorry?
About 20 feet, 20 linear feet at the rear of the property. It's not a great expense.
Yeah, it's not our entire property line, it's just the part that's visible to the truck court and the dumpster and whatever else is going to go in the back of an industrial style building versus flex buildings, again, that have a different kind of tenants to them.
Oh, okay. But, so, is the dumpster kind of on the opposite end from your property? Or no?
No, Susie snapped a shot. You didn't get a copy of that. It's one
The
of
shot
the...
that I see, I didn't see a dumpster. So,
Just to clarify also with regards to the dumpsters, a lot of what's out there currently is temporary in nature. There is an
Because of
enclosure where the dumpster will need to be, and all dumpsters will have to be in an enclosure. There's also some fencing and some porta potties that are temporary for the tenant finish outs that are ongoing.
Okay. So,
While he does that, I have a question, or I guess a concern. I'm in agreement with some type of screening, but I'm not sure why this applicant has to be included in this SUP when they're in the middle of the complex and there's multiple tenants going to be there. So I just kind of disagree that we would add that as a condition, that it should be taken some other method.
For that to finish before I address the comment,
Okay.
Mr. Davis.
Let me see can I see what you're showing?
Certainly can.
Okay.
You see there's windows all on the side and then it goes continuing back.
Okay.
This is where the parking lot, the building you're talking about.
Okay.
Just like not see that. Or for them to see up and us to see that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you.
And if I could just add, finally, it's not so much the firm that, the automotive firm that you heard that's occupying that space, it's more, that current 130,000 square foot industrial type building that's going to have semi-trucks and a truck court, which is a very different theme than flex buildings. So however you need to deal with it in terms of this SUP, we just have an issue with that big building and screening relative to that truck court. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. The trucks are going to be with a different tenant, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't have any issues with the automotive firm. Yeah. But we're here because you mailed us this document and we're like, oh my gosh. We started paying attention to it because you sent us that document that said you were going to have this event tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle, did you want to address his question?
Yes, I just wanted to address Mr. Davis's concern. So Our screening standards don't require side screening between industrial. These are all zone light industrial, so there's no screening requirement along the side between adjacent uses. So when this building was built, it met all the standards at that time. They are requesting, as you see here, there's been a request for some additional screening there. And if that's something that the commission is interested in exploring, I just request that you ask the applicant, because as we received this request late this afternoon, we have not really had a chance to discuss that with them yet.
I guess that would be my thought, that if the request has come in, has the applicant had the opportunity to look at that? Because I'm actually in somewhat agreement with Jim about, this is, if this tenant were occupying the entire building, it would be, it would be one thing, but this is one piece of a much larger building. And so I guess I would ask the applicant, I would love to hear the applicant's thoughts on that topic.
I don't think they would have a problem with adding some additional screening, some type of trees or bushes that would provide some additional screening for them over there. I mean, I understand what you're saying and I appreciate it, but it may be hard for y'all if it's not required per your ordinance for that building or whatever. It may be hard for y'all to make that building owner add that additional screening over there. So it doesn't look like it's very substantial to me, and if makes the neighbor happy, I think that we would be fine with adding that.
Okay.
The other screening that you're mentioning is 15-gallon Nellie Stevens hollies. Would you have a general idea how many you would need to do what they're asking?
To be honest, I'll have to look at it closer, but I'm thinking.
We have some idea because
You do?
understand the space. Susie
They get 20 feet tall, 15 wide, so, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So I'd have to walk it out. We're actually replacing some landscaping that we lost in the heat of summer, but I couldn't imagine that it would be more than, it would be less than 10.
Okay.
call it 10 shrubs.
And I wouldn't want to get too big, just because they grow fast.
So 10, probably 10.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak as part of this public hearing? If not, we will, having no one come forward, we will close the public hearing. I personally am not comfortable putting a requirement on this applicant to put in additional screening. It sounds like the applicant is open and willing to be a good neighbor and work with you guys on putting some additional screening in there. I don't feel comfortable requiring that they do so. I'd love to hear other commissioners' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think
It sounds like it would have been part of the original building development, and you're also talking about, because what you just said, Texas heat, this is going to have irrigation extended to it as well. So that's, depending on where the irrigation's at, probably would require some extensive tie to the existing. And you don't know too right now if the existing system has enough oomph to kind of add that. So if you're talking about adding another zone, you could be talking about some additional money to do that.
And I guess the only other question would be for the commissioners to discuss is whether or not, well, Michelle, do we have the option of putting a condition about not having vehicles parked outside overnight?
You do also have that option, yes, and that's tied directly to this use itself.
Okay, and so if we put a condition on that as well, then if there were vehicles parked overnight, then that would be, the recourse would be code, that's a code violation.
Correct, that would be a code violation, and so we would pursue that through our code enforcement department. Ultimately, if it were to be escalated and not resolved, we could revoke the SUP as it would not be in compliance with it.
Okay.
Now, is that the case with the other two tenants also? Right, that are doing the finish out now? I mean, because it seems, if I'm hearing this right, the quarrel's not really with, with the applicant, right? That's really not where the quarrel is, right?
To answer the question about the other uses, if they were to park cars overnight, that would not be an issue. I think here we're more concerned about the cars needing repairs being parked overnight.
I was hearing trucks, like large trucks, right? Was the concern. But I don't think it's your client that we're talking about, right?
I think it's more just the use of that building. In some operations, you're going to get 24 hours and there's going to be cars there. We don't want to see wrecked cars, but that is what it is. And they have the right to do what they want to do with their building. I just would like to, you do have irrigation to that area, and as does the current building owner.
We can be responsible for the irrigation.
Yeah, I done that. But you're right, this is more of an issue of the building, not this
Not this.
particular
Not right.
tenant.
So, now, the other thing too, right, is that basically you said all the work is gonna be done inside the space, not outside, right?
Correct.
So the parking that we're talking about is only for the employees of the space,
That's correct.
right?
And that's in our narrative too, that's part of this packet.
So, I mean, if they were running a call center in there, you wouldn't really know the difference whether they were repairing cars or running a call center in there.
Right, I think I said in my email to
And
you.
it was really, we were negligent in not being closer to the project when it was going up, right? Because of a 3-story against a bunch of 1-stories, but it's zoned that. I don't know what industrial would be, but this really isn't about the tenant, as long as they're not leaving wrecked cars out there, and I don't think they will. I mean, I know I have a car that has an electronic system, and by the time they get to that state, it's pretty much fixed. It may be the most expensive part to fix, but yeah, you're correct. I believe it is a building issue, not a tenant issue.
Do we have a motion? Is there any additional discussion, or do we have a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 4A, the SUP as presented.
We have a motion from
Second.
Jim, second by John. All those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. This item will go before City Council for a second public hearing and final decision on November the 5th.
Thank you. And our final item on the agenda is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Mary Ellen, second by Karen. All those in favor signify aye. Aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.